Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. The news is live on Joy 99.7 FM here in Accra and Kumasi. We are on Love 99.5 FM. We are also live in all 16 regions of Ghana through over 30 affiliates. We are on Kekeli Radio in Ho Ganga FM in Jirapa, KTU Radio in Koforidua, Lolonyo FM in Hohoi. We are live on X Spaces. We are on Facebook. We are on myjoyonline.com. The Midday News is sponsored by Petrol Sol, your clean fuel in full quantity. Petrol Sol is always a delightful experience. Also brought to you by Duraplus Ghana Limited, producers of quality PVC and HDP pipes and water tank. We are the only water storage tank with a level indicator. Where Duraplus goes, water flows. This afternoon, Attorney General questions the rationale behind the push for the President to assent to the Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill passed by Parliament.
Everything connected with this bill is politically motivated. Some judges and who are sponsored this bill, and they not take a position which is markedly different from what they took about 8 years ago.
And as the rift between the executive and the legislature deepens, the governance expert is urging caution as he insists the development is eroding trust between the arms of government.
Let's say the Supreme Court rules says that bill is, unconstitutional. What precedent are you setting? That now before a bill becomes law, you need the Supreme Court to weigh in.
Also in this package,
an injunction motion on notice seeking to restrain the Speaker from proceeding with the vetting and approval of the names of the persons submitted by His Excellency the President.
This afternoon, we get to settle the debate on whether a motion for interlocutory injunction had been filed at the Supreme Court at the time Speaker Alban Bagbin claimed to have been served with such a document.
The House is unable to continue to consider the nominations of His Excellency the President.
Indeed, the application for interlocutory injunction has not been filed. It cannot be saved.
The injunction application was submitted to the registry of the court yesterday and filed.
And out of 5 persons in the Ghanaian household population do not have enough drinking water, according to the Ghana Statistical Service, as we celebrate World Water Day.
To meet the demand of Accra, not everybody, because a lot of people are staying beyond the service jurisdiction and they do not have pipelines. If you do not have pipelines extended to where you live, then it becomes a bit difficult.
We have details as about 2 million Ghanaians have to embark on a 30-minute round trip to obtain drinking water. The sports.
Ghana is on the cusp of a golden sweep at the African Games today with over 12 gold medals up for grasp across 4 sporting disciplines.
And much later, children are dying fast from cases of cerebrospinal meningitis in the Upper West region due to late reporting to health facilities. We have more as the Health Directorate intensifies education to save lives.
So, majority of the cases are coming from Wild West, which we have 35 suspected with 9 confirmed and then 4 deaths. But the main issue we are having is late reporting.
Please do stay with me for details of that and more here on the Midday News. I am Emefa Apawu, and this is your home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. This afternoon, the Attorney General and Minister for Justice, Godfred Yeboah-Dame, is questioning the rationale behind the push for the President to assent to the Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill passed by Parliament. According to him, the push can only emanate from a political consideration rather than the protection of the public against such acts. Parliament is in a standoff over the Anti-LGBTQ bill following the President's decision to wait on the Supreme Court decision on a suit filed against it. We can listen to the Attorney General, Godfred Yeboah-Dame.
I had actually mooted bills in Parliament, sponsored bills in Parliament, which seek to actually protect the public purse. There's a Contract Amendment Act which I got Parliament to pass in July last year. And that bill had to do with prohibiting a public officer from awarding or agreeing to the award of compound interest in any contract entered into on behalf of the state. That's a contract that's a bill that really has a tendency to save the nation huge billions of cedis. That bill was passed in July 2023. It was only brought to the President for his assent about 3 weeks ago. So clearly, it must only be politics which will excite the interest of Parliament in this manner as to, even when there's a court process pending, force the transmission of the bill to the President for his assent. And I make the point, and I still repeat, that everything connected with this bill is politically motivated. Some judges and who are sponsored this bill, are they not taking a position which is markedly different from what they took about 8 years ago when they were in government? Is some judge not captured on video as actually advocating the respect for gay rights? As President Mahama, when he was vice president, also not captured on video as also advocating respect and tolerance for gay rights? So how come the same president now the ones advocating the passage of this bill?
That's Godfred Yeboadame is the Attorney General and Minister for Justice. Now, the Center for Democratic Development's Fellow on Governance, Dr. John Osai Kwapong, says the feud between the presidency and Parliament has put the Supreme Court in a complex situation.
You start also drawing the judiciary into some of these issues.
Because now, whichever way the ruling of the Supreme Court goes, one arm is going to feel aggrieved in a way. Those two arms have boxed the judiciary into a tight corner.
For me, if there are things that can be resolved administratively, can be resolved through diplomacy, can be resolved through other means besides going to the judiciary, I encourage that. So think about this. Let's say the Supreme Court rules, and says that, the bill is, unconstitutional, right? What precedent are you setting? That now, before, a bill becomes law, you need the Supreme Court to weigh in before the president can give his or her assent? Or what if the Supreme Court rules that, the bill is, you add another layer of complexity. How much are you going to draw the judiciary into battles between the executive and the parliament? And what are the implications of that for the lawmaking process or, things like that?
Dr. John Osai Kwapong is a CDD Fellow on Governance, Executive Director of the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs. Dr. Rashid Rahman wants more consensus built on the issues.
It just signals, for me, the deteriorating level of relationship between the two arms of government. Look, right from the beginning of this 8th Parliament, because of its character and nature, some of us have said over and over that we need, find a way to build bridges, to build consensus, not only between the majority and the minority in the House, but also between the executive and the legislature, given the fact that, this is not the 7th Parliament where we have Right Honorable Michael Kwe as Speaker of Parliament, who is from the same stock like the President.
Well, and that's Dr. Rashid Rahman. At the heart of all this controversy is also whether or not a motion for interlocutory injunction had been filed at the Supreme Court on Wednesday when Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagbin claimed he had been served with a document. The Speaker suspended approval of President Akufo-Addo's ministerial nominees, claiming at the time it was because an MP had filed an application seeking to injunct Parliament from going ahead to consider the nominees who had been vetted by the Appointments Committee. Listen.
Honourable members, I also bring to your attention the receipt of a process from the courts titled Roxanne Nelson Eche K. Dafiamapo versus the Speaker of Parliament and the Attorney General, suit number J1/12/2024, which process was served on the 19th, that is yesterday, March 2024, and an injunction motion on notice seeking to restrain the Speaker from proceeding with the vetting and approval of the names of the persons submitted by His Excellency the President. In the light of this process, the House is unable to continue to consider the nominations of His Excellency the President.
But Attorney General Godfred Yeboadame, who caused the search to be conducted at the registry of the Supreme Court, slammed the Speaker, insisting he had no basis in law to do that.
So I asked 3 questions from the Supreme Court registry. The first question was whether or not a certificate of case in support of the plaintiff's writ has to date been filed in accordance with Supreme Court rules. And the answer was only the writ has been filed. Second question was whether or not an application for interlocutory injunction has been filed by the plaintiff herein, and if so, when was it filed? The answer was a categorical no. The third question, whether or not the application for interlocutory injunction has been served on any of the parties to this suit, and if so, when, was also a categorical no. Indeed, the application for court injunction has not been filed. It cannot be saved.
Well, the MP for South Dai, Roxanne Nelson Dapamakbo, in whose name the application stood, also claimed in a Joy News interview his motion for injunction had been filed on Wednesday.
The injunction application was submitted to the registry of the court yesterday and filed. So if the Attorney General claims that he's conducted a search, I'll be willing to see the content of that search. Hold on, what baffles me is that the Attorney General is a party in this matter. Then he comes on radio and makes very spurious comments. And I find it very offensive. He's the leader of the bar. He's the Attorney General of the Minister of Justice of the Republic of Ghana. He should stop this radio legal argument.
Well, let's fact check all the claims because we've been tracking the timelines and comparing the information we have received so far. My colleague Kweku Asante joins me in studio with details. Kweku, first, at the time the speaker was speaking, had a motion for injunction been filed?
So, Emefa, let's start from the top. Roxanne Dapamakbo's substantive application for the Supreme Court to actually determine whether or not the president had acted lawfully when he transferred some ministers to some new ministries was filed on the 18th. Then he followed suit with his injunction application only yesterday. And in fact, at the time the speaker was speaking on Wednesday, there was no motion for interlocutory injunction which had been filed. And the Attorney General, as you heard him say, he had calls for a search, and that was filed at 9:05 a.m. yesterday. And 1 hour later, Roxanne Nelson Dapamakbo then files his application for injunction. And so the Speaker of Parliament was speaking at a time when only the writ had been filed, which had, among other things, one relief that he was seeking being interlocutory injunction. But the substantive motion itself had not been filed.
Now, what then happens to the process to approve these ministers?
So now, Roxanne Nelson Dapamakbo has filed his injunction application.
Okay.
We understand the majority may be pushing to get the House to come and sit at an emergency sitting. By the time that sitting would have happened, if the court does not dispose of this injunction application, it will still be subsisting. And the Speaker of Parliament says he's going to apply the principle that the President has now laid, that once there's an injunction application, he will not proceed to take any action. And so, as of now, that action to approve the ministers is not going to happen until the court disposes of this application.
Thank you very much, Parliamentary Affairs Correspondent Kweku Asante there. Meanwhile, lawyer for the South Dai MP, Nikpapu Samuado, says the Speaker made his own interpretation and any person dissatisfied with that can go to court and challenge it.
The Speaker has received a notice. He has received a writ. You understand? The writ has an injunctive relief. If you read the AG's letter, it speaks to the issue of the injunctive relief. And so if the Speaker has made an interpretation of that particular process and says that based on the interpretation he makes, he has decided to restrain himself. If the Speaker has made a ruling and you disagree with the ruling, what do? You challenge it in court.
Now, away from that, minority in Parliament have slammed the National Health Insurance Authority's plan to spend 245 million cedis to purchase Ghana cards for all children between the age 6 and 14. The NHIS justifies the decision, arguing purchasing the cards for children in those age brackets will save them the cost of having to print national health insurance cards for them. But former Minority Leader Haruna Iddrisu says the expenditure is reckless and it is not the responsibility of the authority to be purchasing Ghana cards when it struggles to settle claims.
The committee noted that National Health Insurance plans to purchase 3 million Ghana cards at a cost of 245 million. Ghana card, NHIS, wants to spend money to purchase Ghana card. In which country? Then why do you have a Ghana card? NHIS. Mr. Speaker, read paragraph 94 well. That the committee plans to purchase 3 million Ghana cards at a cost of 245 million for children. Why are we purchasing Ghana cards for children? The state is already undertaking and sponsoring acquisition of Ghana cards. Then a state institution, instead of harmonizing the data, wants to spend money to buy data.
Well, the Minority Chief Whip on his part, Kwame Governs Abuja, is also demanding a parliamentary audit into the NHI spending billions of cedis on IT-related expenditure.
We are getting concerned about the amount of money NHIS is spending on ICT-related issues. Mr. Speaker, in this formula, for 2024, almost 1 billion Ghana cedis is going to be spent on ICT-related items. Mr. Speaker, things like claims processing center, 76 million. Biometric ID card authentication system, 405 million. Management information system, 343 million Ghana cedis. Telecare service platform, 30 million Ghana cedis. Claims data capture, 112 million Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, even Ministry of Communication, how much money do they spend on ICT and other things? Mr. Speaker, and this is not the first time. And we requested that the NHIS should conduct an independent audit of the system and report to Parliament. As we speak, Mr. Speaker, they have failed to do the audit and furnish Parliament. So, Mr. Speaker, the report is saying that, yes, we gave them the opportunity to do this, and they have failed to do that. So we are saying Parliament should also institute their own audit into this.
Minority Chief Whip Kwame governs Abuja. We'll stay a while longer on the health front, and if you're seeing red bands at various hospitals across the country, that's because nurses and midwives are serving notice to register their displeasure over the recent increment in the cost of foreign verification fees for health workers. Parliament announced a new cost of foreign verification from an initial 550 cedis to a staggering 3,000 cedis, representing 445.45% increment. Calls for the Health Ministry and the Nurses and Midwives Council to review the costs have proven futile. The National Council of the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association has therefore outlined actions to be undertaking starting March 22 to April 3, 2024 to register their discontent at the new fees. Jones Efriye Anto is the Ashanti Regional Chairman of the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association.
The immediate concern is increasing verification fees from 550 cedis to 3,000, which is 445.5% increase in that field. And we think that is disrespectful, irregular, and unreasonable increment in the verification fees, considering the salary and condition of service of the nurse or midwife in Ghana. From today to 27th March, we are putting on the red band in the hospitals, in the schools. And from 28, if they have not withdrawn this, we are going to withdraw all OPD services. And if by 3rd April they have still not withdrawn it, we will withdraw total services.
Well, the health sector has in recent years recorded mass exodus of nurses and midwives to the foreign countries, which are part of reasons for the new price increase. But the health workers say the huge cost will not deter them from leaving the country, as over 5,000 nurses and midwives are currently unemployed.
As I speak, we have over 5,000 qualified nurses and midwives in the house without employment. And my brother, what's the cost of air tickets? And you know the processes they go through before they can practice outside. And have you calculated all the costs? If people will travel, even if they charge 50,000, they will travel because they pay more than 50,000 to be able to travel outside to go and get better condition of service. And so it's not this increase that is going to deter anybody from going.
Jones Efriye Anto is the Ashanti Regional Chairman of the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association. They're speaking to Love News. Now, the National Service Personnel Association is demanding the payment of a 2-month outstanding allowance owed members serving in the public sector. They lament the delay in disbursement of the allowances has become a norm, causing untold hardship on graduates who depend on the stipend for their survival. The association is demanding the immediate payment to avert an industrial action. My colleague in Anabwache Dankwa Adam has more.
The national service personnel in the public sector say they are struggling to meet basic needs as payments for their monthly allowances have delayed. These allowances sometimes delay for several months before they are paid to fresh graduates undertaking the 1-year mandatory service. Some personnel under the 2023-2024 batch say they have not received their allowances since January 2024.
Currently, we are yet to receive payment from January, February, and March. We are yet to be done with March, so let me say January and February. It's not that good. Definitely, we need money to support ourselves in our, let me say, our day-to-day activities, transportation costs, and all this. You know, as graduates, definitely our parents will want to leave us to fend for ourselves, and we will tend to rely so much on these allowances.
Secretary of the National Service Personnel Association, Nana Edujemfi Mensah, says the delayed payment of allowances has become a worry to members.
With the concerns about allowance, before this week, we had about 4 months unpaid allowances, but then from the beginning of this week, they have.
Well, that's Nana Boakye Dankwa Yadom's report. Meanwhile, flag bearer of the NDC, John Mahama, has chastised the government over the delayed payment of the NSS allowances.
Yawa by moment said national service allowance. Bosum bedru ni edchiada. And so neso de say by bosum enum ni national service for yintu amoka. And yes, sikano so doso. By 600 700 cedis a month.
For 5 months now, national service personnel haven't been paid. It's not as if the amount is huge, just 700 Ghana cedis.
Abai ebe ni.
That's former President John Dramani Mahama there, taking us on a quick break here on the Midday News Live on Joy 99.7 FM here in Accra, and Kumasi on Love 99.5 FM. We are on a number of affiliates across Ghana's 16 regions. The Midday News is sponsored by Petrosol, your clean fuel in full quantity. Petrosol is always a delightful experience. Also made possible by Duraplus Ghana Limited, producers of quality PVC and HDP pipes and water tank. Where Duraplus goes, water always flows. We return with sports, and 1 out of 5 persons in the Ghanaian household population do not have enough drinking water. That's according to the Ghana Statistical Service as we celebrate World Water Day.
To meet the demand of Accra, not everybody, because a lot of people are staying beyond the service jurisdiction and they do not have pipelines. If you do not have pipelines extended to where you live, then it becomes a bit difficult.
When budgets are tight and money difficult to come by, you want to be sure you get the best value for your money. These are not times to be spending money fixing expensive engine problems because of cheap fuel and lubricants. Drive to a Petrosol station today and buy your quality fuel and lubricants, and rest assured of fuel that lasts long and lubricants that prevent expensive engine problems. Hear the sound. Petrosol, clean fuel in full quantity.
Dive into a new era of news consumption with myjoyonline.com, your go-to destination for cutting-edge journalism, giving you the most credible stories from business to politics and from sports to entertainment. Myjoyonline.com introduces an upgraded news website meticulously designed to empower you with an enriched browsing experience like never before. Experience the future of news browsing with myjoyonline.com.
Thanks for staying with us. Let's do sports. Mubarak.
Yes, Emefa. So Ghana stands on the verge of a golden sweep today with over 12 gold medals within reach across 4 sporting disciplines. Now in football, the Black Satellites, they take on Uganda in the men's final at Accra Sports Stadium, hoping to win gold for the first time since 2011. In athletics, Joseph Paulamua and Ibrahim Fuseni will compete in the men's 200 meters final, with Janet Mensah set to compete in the women's 200 meters final as well. There are representatives in the long jump, high jump, and javelin throw finals. To hockey, and Ghana come up against Nigeria in the women's final, while the men's team face Egypt. And now in boxing, 5 Ghanaians have a chance of winning gold in tonight's finals, and that includes Olympic bronze medalist Samuel Techi and Abubakar Kamoko. You know who that is?
Tilapia, our
that is the son of Brahma Kamoko, a.k.a. Bukombanku.
Yeah, and Ghana will face Nigeria in the friendlies later today.
Yes. That's the Black Stars.
Okay, we're waiting for that. Now, the Ghana Statistical Service in its 2022 Ghana Demographic and Health Survey has disclosed that 1 in every 5 persons in Ghana, which accounts for 19.1% of the population, did not have sufficient drinking water. The deficiency varies significantly across regions, with the northern region topping the list, where 1 in every 3 persons, equating to 32.1%, lacks adequate drinking water. We can hear from Stanley Mate on this.
Now, if you look at the volumes of water that we produce in Accra daily, vis-a-vis the demand or the population size, okay, the gap is around 50 million gallons of water on daily basis to meet the demand of Accra. Not everybody, because a lot of people are staying beyond the service jurisdiction. And they do not have pipelines. If you do not have pipelines extended to where you live, then it becomes a bit difficult. Because if you look at the peripheries of Accra, most areas do not have pipelines.
It's World Water Day. Do well to drink loads of water. Now, the Education Ministry is promising to swiftly deal with the acute food challenges in some selected senior high schools following Joy News National Dialogue. It comes on the heels of complaints by Conference of Heads of Assisted Secondary Schools CHAS that some school heads are forcing students to skip meals in order to mitigate the precarious feeding crisis in various schools. Here's more in this News Desk report.
Under the free SHS policy, government is obligated to provide students with free meals, tuition, and cover other related operational costs. However, delays in the timely release of funds have led to acute food shortages, leading schools to either provide students with one specific meal or force them to skip some on the menu. Joy News' documentary, Empty Plates, the free SHS promise, revealed government was struggling to meet its own promise of providing the students with free meals. On the Thought Leadership Forum, the Conference of Head of Assisted Secondary Schools revealed the challenges with regard to feeding has worsened over the years. National Secretary of the Association, Primus Barrow, pointed out that many schools have almost run out of supplies.
But here you are, looking at your students in the face who have not fed themselves for about 4. In fact, in some instances, I can tell you in authority that there were instances and there are still instances where schools had to jump meals. What it means is that you will take breakfast, you will jump lunch and take supper.
Ambrose Kwajoja, representing the Teachers and Educational Workers Union, TEWU, argued that the financial allocation for food per student has remained stagnant for a long time.
So these are the pressures on our matrons now in the various institutions.
But that money has not increased since 2017?
No, it hasn't increased.
Still the same?
Yeah, it's still the same.
54%.
Yes.
Deputy Ranking Member on Parliament Education Committee Clement Park asserted that the core issue behind the feeding problem lies in the food distribution and the buffer stock system.
It's because Buffer Stock Food Company is in Accra and they are giving contracts to people who do not know the geographic locations, and the suppliers are supplying what they can get when they can get.
The Executive Director of Africa Education Watch, Kofi Asari, noted that many parents are now compelled to spend beyond their means to ensure their children are adequately fed.
And when I talk about the cost, I'm being realistic because Africa Education Watch, we have many students in many senior schools that we are sponsoring. And so I talk about cost as a parent and cost as a sponsor in many schools. We ask students from Presec all the way to Zebula.
Nevertheless, pediatrician Dr. Hilda Mantebia Boy emphasized that the situation is detrimental to students. Underfed and malnourished students cannot be mentally sound to learn.
These are important for them to be able to grow. And as a nation, we need to prioritize the well-being of our children.
The Ministry of Education assured that they were prepared to provide a comprehensive and effective solution to the situation. Kwesi Kwarton, the ministry's public relations officer, represented them on the show.
First of all, the assurance is that we are going to intervene to his school and even the entire angle that he's described. But you see, there are 18 food items.
By when?
Immediately. It's of immediate effect.
Many panelists advocated for a review of the free SHS policy, proposing radical solutions such as allowing parents to feed their children in boarding schools or implementing cost sharing instead of government fully covering the expenses. Others suggested reviewing the financial allocation and the use of the buffer stock to replenish schools. Despite these suggestions, the ministry remained silent on the issue of review.
And that's the Joy News National Dialogue. Except from that, and another edition comes your way another time, which will be announced. Now, younger people are dying at an alarming rate of cerebrospinal meningitis in the Upper West region due to delayed reporting to health facilities. 6 more persons between the ages of 10 and 19 have succumbed to the disease, bringing the death toll to 10. The hardest hit, we're told, is in Wa West. It's time for M&J.
Yeah.
Maxwell is here.
You talked about
ambitious tilapia earlier, right? Yeah, ambitious tilapia is trending on Twitter. Yeah, he's trending on X, and he's the son of Brahima Kamoko, right?
Course.
Yeah. So father is Bukum Bankum, and then son is what ambitious tilapia. Mother would definitely be something like Bakushito, you know. But but he's trending. That was because he won his fight yesterday. It is qualified for the final at the 2023 African Games boxing events. There are some comments here. This one here coming from Kwame Bafo Jr. He says, "I've been trying to understand the meaning of ambitious tilapia. Where do they get these names?" And then Kwikwerik says, Abubakar Kamoko, aka Tilapia, continues to make his dad Bukum Banku and Ghana proud. So Tilapia making Banku proud there. I'll definitely make Banku proud.
And that's how we end today's edition of the Midday News here on Joy 99.7 FM. There's more when you log on to myjoyonline.com. Living Word with Pastor Mensa Otabil is up next. I am